Becoming a mom brings lots of emotions, as well as unexpected experiences, from the high highs of witnessing your children flourish and grow to the low lows and feelings of shame, guilt, and remorse for the life we once had prior to having kids. The feelings and experiences of motherhood are wild, and I'm here to talk about the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Hey, it's Jenny Swanson, your host of Chaos and Coffee Motherhood Unfiltered. I am so grateful you're here. Let's get into it. Hello, I'm back. I want to be honest. I truly thought that I was going to take a break in December when we went to Illinois and come right back in January and start filming or recording more podcasts. And it's April now. Where the time has gone, I truly don't know. And I think when I had originally started this podcast, I was not pregnant. And now, as of tomorrow, April 12th, I will be 29 weeks pregnant with twins. And yeah, has time flown. My plan originally for this episode was to talk about holiday hangovers. And while we are in April, I still do want to talk about it because honestly, this year has been wild. I don't know about you guys, and maybe it's just because we have littles, but it's been ridiculous. When we went to Illinois, I think it was like the 13th of December or something around that time. I was really, really excited, looking forward to seeing my family. Kind of nervous for the flight. I was like, once we get to the airport, things will be great. And honestly, I don't remember the flights being bad at all. It's definitely going to be a different experience when we go back in December this time around because there will be not two, but four kids to manage, two being infants, and we'll figure it out. That is my motto now. The closer I get to my scheduled C-section date, which currently is 38 weeks on June 14th, I am getting more anxious and nervous, because our lives are so drastically about to change. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional when I haven't been emotional, but I guess just because I'm like thinking out loud and I know that I'm going to be sharing this with others. It's just Vince and I was reflecting back with Vince last week. We had a mom friend come over and babysit. Shout out Kelsey if you're listening. Thank you so much. It's the first time we've ever had like a sitter put the girls down that wasn't like my parents, specifically my mom. And it was the one night of freedom I feel like we've had where we met up with our other friends, and it's something that I was so excited to do, and I'm so grateful we were able to do it, especially before the twins came, where we got to go to a baseball game, which I love baseball. I've not been to a game. I've not been actively following, and it happened to be a Cardinals game before the twins were born. And it was just such a great moment. And after that, I reflected back on it a little bit later in the week with Vince, and I had said, we're getting very comfortable in the fact that we're finally able to do things again. We're getting out more. We're seeing our friends more. I'm hosting events or seeing mom friends more, things that I wouldn't have done when I first had Evie 2 years ago. And that's a whole nother thing. Evie turned 2. Edith is now 3.5. Time is really flying, and we have gotten so much more independence as they have gotten a little bit older and gained a little bit more independence. And that's all about to change. And I am excited and very anxious for all of the changes that are to come. I think the closer I get, the more stress I have around the fact that it's not just one baby that I'm used to caring for after having one, it's two, on top of a 3.5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And let me tell you, I know I had an episode on services for the girls, and I am going to go back and we're going to talk about the holiday hangover, but this kind of all ties into it. Here we are in April, and I still feel like we're recovering from kind of the beginning of the year and how brutal getting back and adjusting from the holidays has been. I didn't even take my holiday decor. Like, my Christmas stuff didn't go down until right before Valentine's Day. That has never happened before. Never, ever. It has just been that type of year. And it was like slowly killing me to just see it constantly. And I'll get into more of that in a minute. But this year, it's just been so wild. And getting back to my other point, like, I know I had an episode about services and how important early intervention is, and I just want to reiterate that. I truly think that the girls will probably have ADHD diagnosed at some point in their life, and honestly, I'm going to push hard and advocate for Edith as soon as she turns 4 to try and get diagnosed or at least be assessed, because it's been 6 months since Edith has not had services, and I can tell you it has made a massive difference in behaviors. Granted, 3 is a whole different beast than 2. I can definitely tell you 3 has been very much so more challenging. I don't know if it's because the services have ended, but it's such a disservice. It really frustrates me. I'm so grateful for kids that do have the autism diagnosis that they are able to continue treatment and care within their level of like diagnoses or what have you. But it's really frustrating on the other end of things because Vince and I both have ADHD. It runs in my family. Both my parents have it, my sister have it. Like, there is a very, very high chance that all of our kids will have it just from the fact that both Vince and I have ADHD. And I was talking to Edith's pediatrician about it, and I just had mentioned, I was like, I really think she has ADD or ADHD. And she had said it's not going to be something she would ever diagnose until after she started school and it becomes a problem. And I just like, it was kind of frustrating and really hard to hear because I was 21, I believe. Maybe I was 22 when I got diagnosed. I was in college. I didn't fit the bill for getting diagnosed in grade school because I wasn't hyperactive. I was inattentive. And my sister did get diagnosed when she was, I think, in 2nd grade because she was hyperactive. And it's so frustrating because there are so many women nowadays that are getting diagnosed later in life because researchers and professionals are taught to look out for what symptoms present in boys, not necessarily girls. And my frustration around that has been they're doing such a disservice because I don't want the diagnosis necessarily for medicine. If that's what it comes down to eventually down the road, fine, so be it. However, my frustration is the fact that we so desperately could use guidance and help because your average everyday parenting doesn't necessarily work for neurodiverse kids. It didn't work for me. I don't think it probably worked for my husband. I'm just guessing. I can't quite ask him. He's not here right as I'm recording. He's watching the girls. But the books that are geared towards parenting don't necessarily help with what I'm dealing with. And I just want to be able to give our girls the best possible chance at a positive emotional health as possible and work with what we've got. And I think that's the goal for a lot of parents. It's just we're struggling a little bit more, I feel like, in that avenue where it's 3, the behaviors look very toddler-like, but then I feel like at times there's so much more over and above, and that's where those services helped so much. And I feel like I'm doing such a disservice because I'm not able to help and guide her as much, and I get so frustrated. More than I would like to admit about things that I really don't know what to do about. And that leads into going back to when we went to Illinois for Christmas. So we touched down. We're just going to go with the 13th. I don't know why that date's sticking in my mind. I want to say it was like 2 days after my mom's birthday. So I'm hoping it was the 13th. Whatever. We're going to say it was the 13th. We touch down. The girls, as soon as we get to Illinois, start having sniffly noses. And I'm like, oh no. No. And little did I know that was foreshadowing literally up until, I don't know, maybe March, at least through February. Literally, it felt like we could not catch a break. So the girls had a cold, they didn't sleep well, Edith's behaviors, actually, honestly, even Evie's were not great. Um, and it was like, as much as I wanted to say it was a vacation, just because of the girls dealt with like a cold and then they got RSV, I'm pretty positive. Um, and then that was really, really rough. And then because we were there for 18 days, I want to say Edith started to feel sick or get sick the day or two before we left. But she didn't have a fever the day we left. It was weird. Or if she did, I didn't know it while we were on the plane. But we literally just, it felt like we could not catch a break. And so I felt like, as much as I did enjoy being home and seeing friends and seeing family, I also felt like we were dealing with sick kids, we were dealing with being sick ourselves, and on top of it, it wasn't very relaxing because of how stressful and how unwell the girls were, especially when I felt like they had RSV. Oh, also there was like Vince got exposed to COVID on accident, like a whole slew of issues, which luckily that didn't nothing came to fruition with that. Um but oh my gosh, by the time the holidays were over and we had gotten back, I felt like it had been literally when I put away my Christmas stuff in February. I felt like we were finally potentially starting to recover. And even now, I'm like looking back and I'm like, this has been a really rough start to the year. And I guess thank God we're dealing with all of this illness well before the twins are born, because I would not want to get newborns sick. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. But good Lord, oh my gosh. Um, it's been one thing after another. And the wild thing is, the girls, because of I'm just shocked. I know that if the girls were in daycare, they would be sick a lot. And honestly, it kind of feels like they are in daycare because of how often and how frequent they were getting sick. And luckily it's slowed down, knock on wood. But my goodness, it has been quite the year. I really hope things are starting to die down. I can say with confidence, I think I was, nope. I was going to say, I think I can say with confidence, I got strep. That I was the last person to get sick, but no, Edith had a random case of an upset stomach recently, and I really thought that we were all going to have the stomach flu, and I was dreading it. And luckily, nothing else came of it, and it didn't last very long for her, and she totally handled it like a champ. But good gracious, I am ready. I think it's starting to warm up now. We've had 3 days of like 78, 79-degree weather. It is going to get a little chillier, but like, I think that's a good indication that we're getting into warmer weather and we're getting out of cold and flu season. It's just, again, been such a weird year. And I feel like prepping after the holidays and like getting into the swing of things, we had friends come and visit in March. I'm so grateful they were able to come. And one of the things I really wanted to do was organize our garage before our friends came, just as like, well, there were a couple things. I decided to rearrange our entire like main floor, like the living room, because the girls would not stay. There were certain things they were climbing and doing, and I was like, we need to move the couch. Vince had suggested it, and I was like, no, it's not a big deal. He had suggested it a while ago, just because of the way this couch was angled, and the TV, like the blinds would put a glare, or like the sun would come in and put a glare on the TV. And the girls played with the blinds all the time, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Up until the blinds became such an issue that I was like, oh, nope, I'm taking the Christmas down, and Vince went off to a goals hockey game with our friend from back home that now lives out here. And he came back, and I had completely rearranged the room by myself. He was like, "Oh, you did that." I did. And let me tell you, it has made a world of a difference. The girls don't get in the blinds as much anymore because they can't reach it. The couch doesn't back up to the windows. That was a whole safety concern too, because Evie would just kind of like not fully put her weight on the window, but like it still is a concern. Or if they were able to figure out how to lift the window up and like put pressure, their body weight on the screen. Oh my God, just intrusive thoughts, guys. And I'm just so grateful that nothing came to fruition with that. And it did help for a while for behaviors, but there have been so many things where I'm like, 2 and 3, this age might, these ages might kill me. I am terrified of what 2 and 3 look like with twins. Terrified. And we'll approach it when we get there. It's just one of those things where you got to give yourself grace and know that this is just a blip in time and it goes so quickly. I mean, here we are, April, and this pregnancy for me has like just flown by. I truly don't understand how it has flown by so quickly. Also, when I think about the holidays, there are so many exciting things going on. I just realized this year that it was just so much more incredibly difficult. One of the big things that happened, I'm going to go back to behaviors because, oh my God, it was terrifying. Vince didn't feel well, and he was watching the girls, quote unquote, watching the girls. My dad had just left, and he must have dozed off because he didn't feel well. My mom and I were in her room, or my parents' room, wrapping Christmas presents, kind of going through everything, getting everything set up. This was Christmas Eve. And thank God my mom had her notifications for her Ring and her phone on so that when the Ring doorbell went off, she heard the ping or the chime that it makes, and she was like, "I'm not expecting any deliveries. Are you? I'm not expecting anything." And, oh, so bad. And I was like, "No, not at all. Everything's here and accounted for that should be here." So luckily she had the wherewithal to look, and she just sees Edith opening the front door. And my mom's like, "Edith's outside." So we both run outside, not realizing that she had also let Evie out. We had later watched the camera again, and Edith had let Evie out as well. They were caught running across the street, through my parents' yard, running across the street to the neighbors. I can't tell you how many... I was absolutely frozen in fear. We walk out of my mom's room. We see Vince laying on the couch, and it's like, do you know where the girls are? And he's like, "No. No, what do you mean? I don't. I fell asleep." And Edith had figured out the bottom latch to my parents' like child gate wasn't on. And so she was able to open the gate, open their front door, and just let herself out, as well as Evie. And they both took it as soon as they saw us open the front door, in sheer panic, I'm screaming, "Stop. Please stop." Like, they didn't stop. They kept running. Edith thought it was hilarious. And these are one of those things where this is a safety concern. It goes back to, I could use help. And luckily, now that Evie has just recently turned 2, she started ABA last week, and she's only had one session. She's going to have 2 different providers because Edith and Evie's ABA therapist or infant ed teachers that turned ABA therapist are the same, but she doesn't have the same amount of time to dedicate each week. So we can at least see her for 1 session, and then there will be another therapist that comes in and sees Evie for 2 sessions coming up shortly. But anyways, just the extra time, because it goes from infant ed is 1 hour a week to ABA being 2 3 hour sessions a week, so 6 hours, and then there's like a parent coaching session that we're gonna do every other week. It's just gonna be so much better. I came back so frazzled after December. It was just bad. And my parents got a new house last year, and I can't remember. Evie was walking last summer. She absolutely was, because she was like 18 months, 17, 18. No, maybe not quite. She was like 15 months when we went to visit after they had gotten settled in their new house in July. And she hadn't climbed the hearth. They have this like decent sized fireplace with this big brick hearth. And this time around, the first thing Evie does, she spots it, she climbs up and she's hopping around on it. And my dad's like, get down. We all said, get down. And she just does not listen. And she just doesn't. And it's gotten slightly better actually since starting ABA and like doing a few things that are more geared towards her with infant ed before. But oh my gosh, like I get that toddlers aren't gonna listen all the time, but like the times that it does matter are so important. And them darting out the door, oh my god, my life flashed before my eyes. I think my heart dropped. It was terrifying. So that was just, I feel like, the theme. Like, the girls didn't feel good. They weren't listening. They constantly did stuff that they shouldn't. Here at the house that we're like renting, our sofa backs up. Before, it backed up to like a row of windows up until I rearranged, and now it backs up to the wall. And my parents, on one side, they push the couch against the wall on one side. They have a big sectional. It used to be ours, actually, and it just was too big to move to California. And honestly, I'm so glad we didn't keep it. I'm glad they have it. But on one side of the sectional, it backs up to the wall, and the other side, it's just kind of like not backing up to anything. And we had said numerous times to Evie and Edith, do not climb the back. You're going to fall off. And time again, you can move them. They're going to go right back up. She does not listen. Evie is definitely my, I do what I want child. I don't know how else more to say it. She's my daredevil. Like, she's very stubborn. She is going to be a woman. How do I want to say that? I can visualize it, but I can't. The words are escaping me. Go figure. But anyways, a force to be reckoned with, honestly. So at one point she rolls off the back of the couch, and that literally still didn't do shit for her. She was shaken for a hot second. She was totally okay. But she still continued to do it. And I felt like, and then we get back here and it's just, they're tag teaming one another, behavior after behavior after behavior. And then on top of illness, not feeling good. And you add pregnancy into the mix. I had 2 kidney stones at the beginning of February. Or was that March? I think it was February. Pretty sure it was February. It's a blur. They were back to back. It was literally, I got one on my right side, or was it my left side? They were opposite sides. On a Tuesday, I passed it on a Thursday, and then the very next week I got one on the other side, the opposite side, and I passed it on a Thursday. But oh my god, it has been, all I have to say is, if this is what the holidays look like in the next few years, yay. I'm glad we know what to look for. I'm glad that we now have an idea, but truthfully, like, I hope that's not the case. I really want my Christmas decorations down before, like, the first week of January. And having like two more kids, that's going to be very interesting and how that plays out. But my goodness, like there are so many things about the holidays that I love. And then this year, it was just quite an experience. And I feel like it's just carried into this year. And maybe that's what 2024 is, a hangover of like the ending of 2023. I don't know. I'm just, it's going to get better. It absolutely will. And honestly, it's not terrible. It has gotten so much better. I think the fear for me currently is coming up on June 16th or June 14th, not 16th, and knowing that our lives are going to change so much in that time. And while I am very excited to meet these two new little ones, which I can't remember if I had mentioned, they're both girls. That was a whole ordeal. Vince agreed to have a third in hopes of having a boy. And then when he found out we were having twins, he was like, well, I mean, I've got even higher chances now of having, I'm laughing, of having, not at him, with him, of having a boy. And then I did the gender test, and I knew as soon as she said that they only found X chromosomes, there was no Y detected. I was like, oh, that's going to be a rough conversation. But honestly, he's handled it so much better. He said he was going to be really depressed for a little bit. And yeah, we found out right before going to Illinois. I want to say the day before going to Illinois, if I remember correctly. And it was very stressful for him. And honestly, it ended up being fine. He's a great girl dad. It's just, and I think it's truly a blessing. I think one of the comments he made, and gender disappointment is so real. He made this comment like, I don't know who cursed me, but you've got to be kidding me. And he had said, I had always just really thought it'd be really cool watching a little me or a version of me grow up. And I just want to, I was like, time out. I heard you were a hellion growing up. And that sounds terrifying because we already have two of those. And I can't imagine it's like being triple, like that for a boy, like a little him, a little version of him. Because I'm pretty sure he put his mom through hell for a while growing up. So I think it's a blessing. I'm very excited to have two more girls, and be a girl mom. It's just the anxiety is there. And I'm already very excited about the family holidays and the things that will change. I'm curious as to what that's going to look like. Right now, it's just once they're here, getting into a routine and hoping that develops quickly, because God forbid we aren't on a routine quickly. The idea of the newborns not sleeping at the same time, terrifying. Then I'm not sleeping, dealing with a 2-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. We're gonna get through it though. But yeah, thank you for letting me blabber. I wasn't quite sure where this episode was going, but when it comes to the holidays, I really truly felt like it was so important, and I'm sure I had more thoughts around this episode right after the holidays, but I can just tell you, like, this year it was such a struggle, and I don't know if it's just because of the way the year has been for me or us, if it's been that way for everyone else. I mean, everyone's kind of issues present differently, some collectively the same. I don't know if it's the year or age of our kids as well. Just so many things going on that it really truly felt like a hangover. And clearly I haven't drank in, well, at least 30 weeks, 29, 30 weeks. But still, the idea is, here we are. It feels like a hangover that was never quite ending. No drinks to be had, just dealing with the holidays. And I can say I'm grateful that the holidays of 2023 have ended. It was beautiful, and at the same time, it was rough. And I'm looking forward to the new memories that the holidays will make this coming year. If this is something that resonated with you, know that you are not alone. And if it is not, thank you for sharing and listening. Either way, I'm so grateful you're here.